Thank you for joining us for this episode of Reaching for Research by students for students. My name is Jordan Pilch, and I am a senior here at the University of Arizona studying molecular and cellular biology and microbiology. I am also on the public affairs team as a student assistant here at the BIO5 Institute. Today, I am eager to introduce my guest, Joe. Thank you so much for being with us, Joe.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you.
This one's going to be a little different than usual. We are actually going to have him talk about his experience not only in research, but also as a BIO5 Ambassadors, which you should be a part of. So, do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Joe. I'm a senior this year at the University of Arizona. I'm majoring in public health and minoring in environmental science, and I work with Dr. Verhoogstreet, who's in a microbiologist lab, and I'm a BIO5 ambassador as well. And I also just recently hopped onto Dr. Ellingson's lab, which is an epidemiology research lab. So
labs.
I'm very excited to get started there and see what's new and what I can learn from her as well.
Yeah, that's fancy. Oh my gosh. Okay, so our first question is, what has kind of been your journey through STEM? How did you decide you wanted to do STEM, want to do research, and then how did you decide to become a BIO5 ambassador?
I've always been interested in research or science since as little as I can remember. Obviously, I remember growing up and playing with Legos and everything, but I would always go outside as well and just observe. You know, it's kind of a nerdy thing to do, but I loved hiking. I loved going out in the wilderness, camping, and I just grew a love for the environment like that. And so I'm part of Dr. Verhoogstreet's lab, which is the environmental health lab with microbiology, which is super interesting, and I love to combine that with climate change as well. So Dr. Ellingson's lab, where with epidemiology and climate epidemiology, I can kind of converge what I'm learning with both labs into whatever I want to go down in my career, which is probably climate epidemiology. But that's kind of how I got started. Was I just always loved, you know, our environment and health as well. I wanted to be a doctor for a little bit, but that wasn't. I didn't want to go through the schooling. No.
Don't want to go to medical school. Too much work.
Definitely. So I settled with public health.
So this is going to be a little bit of a question that I think the audience is also going to like. What is climate epidemiology?
Yeah. It's not really known as climate epidemiology, more of environmental epidemiology.
Okay.
It's not entirely a complete subset of epidemiology. I guess you could categorize it as that, but mostly it's just the interaction between environmental health and epidemiology.
Okay.
So as the climate changes, what are maybe different diseases that are coming about that are of a result of climate change, and how can we prevent them or rectify that into something that doesn't hurt us or other populations.
Okay. And is this more the emergence of diseases as a part of climate change? Like, the one that comes to mind for me is valley fever. Is that kind of along that line?
Oh, for sure.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
For sure. Valley fever is a big part of that.
Yeah.
Same with malaria as well.
That's another one that I was going to ask about, the mosquitoes and their changing patterns, and the fact that malaria is now in the U.S. This is fine.
Very fun, very fun. Good, a lot of work for me, so.
You know,
it's good.
You know, job security right there.
Yep.
So how did you get involved with the BIO5 Ambassadors?
Actually, Dr. Verhoogstreet reached out to me, and he sent an email to me and Teresa, who's another BIO5 ambassador that works in the lab as well.
Love Teresa.
Teresa's awesome. And he reached out to us, and he's like, hey, I think you'd be a really good fit for this position. Why don't you go ahead and apply? And so I applied, and same with Teresa. And we went through the interview process, and that's how I became a BIO5 ambassador.
Yeah. I'm in charge of the BIO5 Ambassadors with my co-facilitator, Cameron Noble, who actually does the Discover BIO5 video series. I'm 100% butchering the name. We'll put a link to it in the description. Go watch it. He's got chaotic energy, and I love it. But he and I are kind of co-running this ambassadors program, and it's really interesting to hear how people get involved with it, because I've had at this point like 7 different students that have been in the program, and they all hear about it in slightly different ways. Like Elizabeth Haheim went to the Student Industry Networking event that BIO5 hosts and just is like, ooh, there's a BIO5 Ambassadors thing. I'll pick up this flyer and submit my application and it'll be fun. And I know others have gotten into the program because they've heard about it through the Keep Engaging Youth in Science Research Internship, and I'm glad to hear that it's starting to spread to be more of a word of mouth thing. This makes me excited.
Yeah, definitely.
So what was appealing about BIO5 Ambassadors to you?
Honestly, when I was first applying to it, I was like, oh, I'm just going to apply because why not? But I think the first thing that was appealing to me was that it was a part of BIO5, and I haven't officially been a part of BIO5 yet. And that's something that I wanted to do because I wanted to basically network within BIO5 as well too.
Oh, yeah.
And there's plenty of amazing things going on in BIO5, and that's probably what was most appealing to me about it.
Yeah.
Was just being a part of it, really.
You get to have a nice T-shirt as well.
Yeah, a sick
you know?
T-shirt.
Okay, so our next question is kind of going to be, what are you doing within your research lab with Dr. You said the name.
Verhoogstreet, yeah. You call him Professor V.
Professor V.
Yeah.
What work are you doing with Professor V and also in your new lab now? And then what are you doing inside of the ambassadors?
Yeah, so I'll start with my lab with Dr. Verhoogstreet. In the past, I've worked on a project with him where there was a sewage spill in Naco, Arizona. And basically, we were trying to measure how the environment could recuperate from that in the spill in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So we measured basically the total chloroforms and the E. coli, and we did QPCR on the different soil samples that were left over the course of a few months.
Yeah.
And so we basically analyzed those samples and the water samples as well that were from not necessarily Naco, Arizona, but a simulated portion of the desert that was like Naco, Arizona.
Yeah.
And we did that, and basically, we haven't really gotten a whole lot of results yet from it, or
Still working on it, you know?
yeah, still working on it. But it was a super awesome experience in the lab, and it was something probably the best experience I've had at the university with research.
Aw, I love that. I love
Yeah.
when you have a good research experience and you're just like, yes, this makes sense, this is fun, I'm enjoying this.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people will go into lab and they'll have like a bad experience with it where they're like, all that I'm doing is pouring gels and running them, and that's not something that I'm super interested in. But having that connection and being able to go through and just like enjoy it and have fun with it.
Definitely.
So I'm gonna ask a couple clarifying questions about that,
Yeah.
just because I'm not sure the level of science that our audience has. You mentioned E. coli and then chloroforms? Chloro somethings?
Total chloroforms. Yeah.
Total chloroforms. What are chloroforms? Because I'm sure we're more familiar with like E. coli as a bacteria, but what are chloroforms and why are they important to track?
So chloroforms are, you have your general E. coli, which is your general bacteria that you're going to have in your sample. And then you're going to have your total chloroforms, which is kind of everything else.
Okay.
I'm not too sure how to explain it. I'm not well versed in this science aspect.
That's totally fine.
But it includes some of your bacteria and some of the particulate matter that is in the sample, like basically chlorine is an example of it. So just, yeah, I'm not too sure though.
No, that's totally fine. That's totally okay. This is like, it's just an interesting thing to go through and talk about it.
Yeah,
and
for
see
sure.
What's happening. And you said that it was, oh, that's another great question that's happening from the person who definitely doesn't record these videos. They're sitting over there being like, here's another question. What is QPCR?
So it's a DNA amplification process. So you filter out your sample to basically leave it, so you only have the DNA available from your sample. So we went from a tube of soil all the way down to a basically paper plate of DNA.
Okay.
And so that process took an extremely long time.
But get rid of all of the things that aren't DNA, organic and inorganic.
I spent many, many hours doing that. And basically, we send those samples, the QPCR samples, to a lab for evaluation, and then we get them back. So we do have the option to analyze the QPCR itself and perform the DNA amplification process, but we're like, we have some extra budget, why don't we just send it?
Just send it to somebody else, because like,
yeah, it's super difficult to read, and if you don't know how to read it, then the results are going to be heavily skewed or completely wrong.
Okay, I can dig that. And that kind of leads into like, this is all very much your research and like science side of things, which is how you heard about ambassadors. What are you actually doing with the BIO5 Ambassadors program?
Yeah, I am working with Sean Caden, who's the Senior Business Manager at BIO5. And basically, I'm working with the Gem Corps in the media facility. And the Gem Corps is basically all the people who make mice for the university. So they breed them and sell them for specific genetic applications that you need for research. And the media facility does all the coli mixtures that we use in our research as well. So we got some media from them when we were doing our experiment in the Dr. Verhoek Street lab. And basically with Sean, I'm measuring their revenue, their total expenses, and I'm creating a financial report based on the past, well, since 2007. I'm creating a report from 2007 to now that can measure their income, their general expenses, animal costs, and so that can be super useful to them because they can measure their progress over time. So it's a super interesting project. I was just working on it before I got here too.
You're like, I'm here and I'm typing out my little report, doing all this fun stuff. Oh, I absolutely love that. I had no idea that this was the new project that you were working on, because last semester you had done more about like grant writing as well, and like grant management, because I think you specifically mentioned to me at least that it's hard for a researcher to know how much money they have within their grant to do certain things, you know?
That is still a project we are still in the works with a little bit, but it's a lot more difficult to do because of things I won't get into, right? It's a super complicated issue that you can have your general amount that's left in your grant to spend, but it's not going to be your exact amount. So if you go over, that's going to look really bad to whoever gave you the grant, right?
Yeah.
So unless there's a way you can rectify that in the future, and it's possible that you can, right? So it's just a bit of a complicated process, but we don't have to go into that. And along with the grant writing, I was super interested in doing that because it's something that as an epidemiology and environmental health, I'm going to be writing grants like crazy.
Oh yeah.
And so I wanted to learn how the funding worked with everything. And yeah, it's been a super awesome process with working with Sean and learning how all the funds go through and whatnot.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to try and do these last two questions quick because I definitely spent too much time talking. Outside of your work with STEM, what are some other things that you're passionate about or that keep you motivated to keep going?
Well, I will say I don't have a whole life out of STEM.
Mood!
But
Oh my god!
I do love photography, and that's something I love doing. I love taking pictures of animals and people. And so just this past weekend, I went up to back home to take graduation photos of my cousin. So and it turned out super awesome. So
that's so good. I'm sitting here and I'm like, I gotta take graduation photos.
Yeah, hit me up.
I'll even pay you for them.
No, not for friends.
I'm giving an interview. I have to remain calm, cool, and collected. Oh my gosh, I had no idea that you were interested in photography. So what got you into photography?
Man, I don't know. I picked up my mom's camera one day and I started taking pictures, and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool.
This is pretty fun. I'm enjoying this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's basically all it was.
I definitely am like feeling you though with the life outside of STEM.
Yeah.
That exists. That's a thing. It can get a little difficult to go through and manage time, especially as a senior, because you're getting ready to graduate and you have things that are like, okay, I've been working on this for like 3 years and now I actually have to like put it on paper and finish it, and that takes so much extra time.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is our last question, which kind of is related to this, which is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to your 16-year-old self? And then I'm going to change this last question a little bit. What is one piece of advice you would give somebody who wants to join BIO5 Ambassadors?
Oh, wow. Okay. For my 16-year-old self, I'd say probably you have more time than you think. And whatever you think that you enjoy doing now is probably going to change for major-wise. I mean, I used to be environmental science as my major, and it's my minor now. But over time, as I got to explore college more, my interest changed towards public health.
Definitely.
So I definitely tell myself that I have so much more time
Have
to figure out
fun.
what I want to do, you know, and not be pressured to be rushed.
Yeah.
And then, what was your other question with BIO5?
What is advice that you would give to somebody who wants to be a BIO5 ambassador?
I'd say go for it. It is an awesome position, and you meet a ton of great people. And the experience with Sean that I've had has been invaluable to any financial grant in the future that I may write. And that's not, BIO5 has so many different opportunities as an ambassador. So you might not even want to work with grants and say, oh, BIO5 isn't going to be great for that, but you can do anything else. So
Yeah.
Teresa and Lindsay are both doing things with.
They're doing stuff with Amy, and then Teresa is working with Heather Ingram with the Bridges program, which is she's running their social media accounts for them. And Lindsay has gone through and completely changed the way that we set up marketing for events and managing those processes. So our tagline is the business side of science. So if you really want to get into it, that's definitely a thing that you should do, and go for it. You might get accepted, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for coming and talking.
Yeah, it was awesome,
I was
Jordan.
very excited for this. I love it. I love when I get to talk to people that I know on this, because it's so nice to go through and have the experience of like seeing the things that you have all done and getting it displayed for others to go through and say like, look, these people have done this. You can do this as well, you know? So thank you once again. I hope everybody has a good day.
Yeah, have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.